Alright guys, so welcome back to my channel. So this is the third video and it's going to be talking about how to select a medical school. Now it's a difficult topic to talk about, obviously. There are now about 33 I think, and selecting one can be difficult. There are a lot of factors that go into it, but I'm going to take you through all the factors that I think are pretty much the most vital factors to think about. And then obviously the decision should be your own, but hopefully the video tells you a little bit what you need to think about when selecting medical school. When selecting medical school, you need to think about a lot of things. For example, teaching styles, geography, societies, grades, interview styles, a lot of things that will factor into your decisions. In the UCAS track website, which is basically a website where you select which universities you put down and you select which ones you apply to, you pick 4 medical universities and you pick a 5th non-medical university. So that can be biomedical sciences, that can be 4 choices of medical schools to go. Now, you need to think about this carefully. So let's run by what you need to think about. Teaching styles. It's a difficult thing to think about because you haven't really come across it yet. So there are 3 different types. The first one I'm going to talk about is PBL or CBL, problem-based learning and case-based learning. Now, what this is group work basically. Now at school you may have gone through this. This is problem-based learning. Now at school you would have had something similar to this, group work. So your teacher may set you a homework where you have to get together in a group and carry out research and then present a paper or present a PowerPoint on this topic to the teacher. In some sense, in some scenario, you'd have had to do this. And that's basically what problem-based learning is. What happens is the lecturers give you a case, give you a sort of a problem, and you go away in a group and you research it, how you're going to find a solution to the problem, and you come back and present to the group. And you basically keep doing this for the entirety of the course. You do get lecturers, but it's not the main section of the learning. It's supplemental almost, it supports it. The main subject of problem-based learning is getting together in groups and solving things. And that's basically what it is. Case-based learning is a little different. Case-based learning uses clinical cases to guide students in what they learn. So you get a case and you figure out how you solve the case. How would you go about treating this patient? How would you go about doing this, that and the other? That usually can be done as a group. A lot of universities now are taking forward PBL and CBL especially. I think Imperial College is the latest to take on CBL for the year starting 2020 actually, I think. So, and they're doing case-based learning, I think. Cardiff University are taking case-based learning as well. So it's becoming very popular now, with clinical cases being an easy way to learn things, which is being hypothesized by the GMC, but it's not the main teaching style. It's the second most popular probably by this point, but that's one idea. The thing is, you have to be really motivated. If you are able to learn on your own, completely, if you feel you're very able to do things on your own, go for it. PBL is a really great way of learning and it's shown to be a very useful and effective way of learning as well. If you need some support, if you always need someone to check up on you, what you're doing in terms of supporting you, giving you help, I wouldn't go for it because it's not very lecturer based, it's not very staff helping. It's sort of on your own. So if not, that's completely fine. There are still more teaching styles, and the next teaching style is probably more for you, which is integrated. Now this is the most common teaching style in the United Kingdom for medical schools. The General Medical Council actually support this, and this is their recommended way of teaching medicine. And integrated is basically where you get traditional teaching, sort of in lectures, scientific facts, learning it, sort of like school almost. Learning it from a lecturer, learning the facts, learning all about the anatomy, physiology, but also throwing in some clinical work. So you're diving right into the GP, you're diving right into hospital, right into clinics, you're doing all of that and you're sort of doing both at the same time. So you will start doing GP work very early, hospital work very early, and you'll also be learning scientific facts at the same time. PBL is very much just thrown on your own, sort of into clinical stuff, into learning about clinical cases. Integrated is sort of more, you do learn about it, but it's not as much as PBL. You learn about the clinical cases, you do some active work in hospitals and GP clinics, but you also have that sort of scientific learning, that basis to your understanding. So for those of you who aren't sure, this might be a good area. And for those of you who want to get involved with hospitals early on, GP clinics early on, but also want to have that scientific understanding there, this is probably the best way to go. And a lot of universities do integrated. So I definitely go with one of these as well. A lot of the London universities go with integrated courses, so it might be a good idea to look at that, as well as some of the ones further north, traditional. This was the first method of teaching in medical schools. However, since However, since the introduction of new styles such as integrated, CBL, PBL, it sort of died down a little bit, and few universities maintain a traditional structure. However, there are universities, and potentially the biggest two universities in the United Kingdom, Cambridge and Oxford. And the way they do it is it's pretty much scientific. Now, it is very lecture based, it is very factual based, and you will go into the clinics with a strong sense of scientific understanding. You'll have the best lecturers around to teach you, and you'll be pretty much very strong with understanding. Now, that all sounds very good, but you have to understand, you have to remember that clinical learning is also very important. And with traditional courses, you don't go into clinical studies very quickly. You take time. It takes a few years to get into clinical work. So you say a lot of your university time is spent in university learning. You don't get to do much GP work, much hospital work, as you do at CBL and integrated. So this is for those of you who feel very confident just learning science and you want to take your time before going into a GP clinic or hospital. You want to go in with a strong scientific understanding. This is for you. You would probably be very comfortable with science, but with the clinical work you take a little bit more time to get into. And that's completely fine, that is traditional, and that's with Cambridge, Oxford, and I believe another university does as well. So, those are the three learning styles. Now, what else to consider? So, what you also got to consider is the application. So you've got two admissions tests. If you don't know about these, do some research about them. You've got the UCAT and you've got the BMAT. Now, different universities require different tests. Most universities do require the UCAT. However, the top Russell Group universities, if you like, require the BMAT. And I'm not sure the reason for that, but that's just how it is. They require the BMAT, and the BMAT takes place later on in the year. The UCAT usually takes place early in the year. So it's a lot, pretty much everyone takes the UCAT because most of the universities require UCAT. A select few require BMAT, and most people don't put all their eggs in one basket with the BMAT. The reason for this being is, the way medical applications work is you send an application in October. The problem with the BMAT is, you sit the BMAT, most people sit it in around October time as well, and you only get the results of your BMAT after you've already applied to universities. Now if you think about this, if you've done badly on your BMAT, you'll only find out once you've applied to your universities, and so you've got nothing else to go on. In order to avoid all of this weighing out which one's better, which one's worse, take a few UCAT universities. The way I did it was I applied for 2 BMAT universities and 2 UCAT universities, so if my BMAT went downhill, I could always rely on my UCAT universities. Especially if I knew my UCAT was a poor score, I could go in for the BMAT universities. If I knew my UCAT was a strong score, I could always rely on my UCAT universities. So I would make sure you're careful in thinking about this. Some of the UCAT universities pretty much put 1% of the application into UCAT, so they don't really care about it too much. Pretty much if you get above the score, we'll consider you. Some universities put pretty much 90% on UCAT. So if you know you've got a poor UCAT score, try and apply for universities which don't have such a big reliance on the UCAT. If you've got a very good UCAT score, a very strong UCAT score, go for the universities which rely on the UCAT, because you've pretty much got in already. I'll talk more about these in another video, but all I want to say is make sure you focus on your UCAT and BMAT, which universities take both and which universities put high importance on them, because you need to strategically apply as well. So that's the second thing, admissions tests. The third thing I'd say is look at in terms of application, look at the grades. You'll know by this point your GCSEs, your Year 12 exams, or however you've done them, whether it's external exams or whether it's internal exams, and you'll also know your predicted grades. You'll know how strong you are on the subject, your teacher has spoken to you. Look at the grade requirements. Do not apply to universities that have grade requirements that you do not have. Do not apply to universities that may have really low grade requirements while you have really high ones. Push yourself. There's no point in applying to universities just for a safety option. Do go for a few insurance ones, just in case your very important ones don't accept you. Go for some insurance ones. But look at these UCAS predicted grades, look at what you've got and think about it again. Should I go for it? Should I not go for it? And yeah, that's pretty much all there is for grades. It's pretty self-explanatory. So the next thing I talk about is what the university is like. Go to an open day. If you can't, have a look on the website. What kind of university is it? What kind of clubs do they have? You want to see if you can fit into this university, if this university has things that you like doing, if you think that you'll be okay at this university. So I would definitely check that. Check the clubs and societies. Check that you're okay with it. If you feel like your university is not that great of a fit for you, don't apply for it. You're going to spend a long time at a medical degree. It's going to be 5-6 years. So do not just apply to something that you think it'll give me the degree, that's it. You need to enjoy it, you need to have a good time, you need to go to university which will fulfill those kind of wishes and those kind of expectations. You also need to be careful because you also need to think about your intercalated degree. Now this has happened usually in the 3rd, 4th year, around that point. Some universities don't do an intercalated degree, some universities do. Now what is an intercalated degree? I'll try and go into more detail in another video about this, but I'll talk about it now. Intercalated degree is basically a year off where you don't study medical studies. You do something else. It can be anything, a language, it can be philosophy, it can be something to do with medicine like physiotherapy. You study it for a year and then you get a BSc at the end of it, if you do well. And it's a great thing to do, and it's a fantastic way to sort of get your mind from medicine a little bit. Go and test yourself, go and do something else. And it's a fantastic thing to do. I think it's a really good idea, and some people may not like it. And it's a good thing to, expand yourself, develop yourself as a person. It doesn't delay your medical degree in any way. Most degrees are anyway 6 years, and that includes an intercalated degree. So it won't put you back in any sense of the word. It doesn't make you a better, worse doctor. It doesn't do anything. It really just makes you, a more confident learner, and it can help you as a physician. If you take a language, you can, speak to patients in another language. If you take psychology, you can understand patients, speaking to them better. Even if it's something completely different, it just expands who you are, and it's a really good way of making university, a little bit different from school. Some universities don't do it, however, so if you want to do it, check that on the university again. Some universities make it compulsory. If you like that, then go for it, Some universities make it sort of, if you want to do it, if you don't want to do it, don't do it. But I'd go for a compulsory one. I think they're really great, I think they're a good idea. And I'd think go for an intercalated degree or BSc. It should be a really good thing. And most people do go in for intercalated degrees anyway. The last thing I'd say, which is actually, in terms of importance, it varies people, but I'd say where it is. The geography. Now, the thing about this is people have different opinions on this. Some people want to go away from home, some people want to stay close to home. Now, personally me, I have my own opinion on this. I'd like to stay close to home, so I apply to a London university, and that just makes it easier for me to come, not necessarily to commute, but I've got my family close by. I can always come home if I need anything, if they need me. It just makes it a lot easier, I think. And I don't feel that necessity to go far away from home. Some people might want to go far away from home for various reasons. If you just want to live your own life, then apply for a university that's particularly far away. But I'd say it's up to you really, geography-wise, but just make sure you check that. Make sure you think about it. Have a careful think about where you want your university to be, really. Have a careful think about where you want your university to be and apply to those which are in that kind of location. For me, I wanted it to be in and around this area and around London, so I applied to a few London universities. Just because you're applying to a university that's close to home doesn't necessarily mean that you have to commute from home. You can get accommodation if you want, but it just means that you have family close by, and if anything's required, if you need anything, it's a quick journey home. It's not too bad. And if you don't need accommodation, if you don't want accommodation, definitely apply somewhere that's close to home, because it means you can travel easier. And if you don't want that, apply far away. And if you want something close to home, apply close to home. That's really what it is. So that's everything really, and we've pretty much covered all of the factors that I can think of. There are probably a few more that you want to go into, but I would say, those are the most important ones. Really, it's up to you in the long run. There are a lot of other factors you should really consider, but that's all there is. If you've got any other questions about applying to a medical university, such as the style of, living there, what kind of living should you go for, what kind of interview did they have, let me know. Again, in terms of interview quickly, it's most of them MMI by this stage, so it doesn't really have much of a difference. Only things work experience and the requirements, as I said, matter. But interview-wise, it doesn't really matter. But if you're confident with MMIs, go with MMIs. If you're confident with panel, go with panel, although there are only a few panel interviews remaining. And that's pretty much all there is. If you've got any questions, email me, put them in the comments below. And if you want me to talk about anything in particular for my next video, which I'm planning to talk about probably UCAT and BMAT in my next video, let me know again, and I will make that happen. I'll do that very soon. And thanks for listening guys, and hope you enjoyed the video.